Welcome to the Healthy Skin Show with Jennifer Fugo, where we're flipping everything you've been told about your chronic skin issues upside down and connecting you with alternative solutions your dermatologist never told you about.
Welcome back to episode number 272 of the Healthy Skin Show. In today's episode, we are going to talk about a topic that has never been discussed here on the Healthy Skin Show before, called Protopic Withdrawal. Now, there are Facebook groups out there filled with stories of people who have experienced something that is similar yet different from the type of drug withdrawal that many of you may be familiar with. I've talked about it here on the Healthy Skin Show, called topical steroid withdrawal. Protopic, also known as Tacrolimus, is an immunosuppressant drug, so it's non-steroidal. The mechanisms of both drugs are different, so I do want to be clear there, but there does appear anecdotally to be some sort of issue going on with longer-term Protopic use. It is not something that is recognized by conventional medicine, and it is less recognized than topical steroid withdrawal. However, it is something that does seem to happen to some individuals. I have no stats. I have no real data beyond the personal stories, especially the one that I plan to share today, to help those who may be going through this realize that you are not alone, and to also serve as a possible cautionary tale, encouraging you to speak with your doctor, whether it is before using Protopic or if you've been using it for a long time, to ask about if there could be any potential withdrawal impacts from the drug's use. My guest today is Dominika O'Sullivan, and she is a former city girl thriving in the beautiful west of Ireland and about to transition to countryside living. She's lived with eczema for most of her life and then transitioned into Protopic withdrawal after being failed by several medical, skin, and alternative medicine professionals. She began looking for a more root cause approach, and I am happy to share that, as you'll come to learn, Dominika is a client in my private virtual practice, and she wanted to share with all of you her journey, her story about not only what has happened to her, but how working with us has truly helped transform what she found to be a situation that she feared could not be fixed to something that has truly improved the quality of her life. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hi, Dominika. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming on the show to share your personal journey.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I look forward to having this chat.
So, would you mind sharing with everybody what was your original rash story? Like, when did all of this start, and what was the recommendations from doctors at the time?
So my original condition was atopic dermatitis, and I was diagnosed with it shortly after I was born. And at the time, I guess in Poland, where I'm from, they performed allergy tests, and they actually interpreted the results the other way around. So they advised me to, be receiving a specific treatment, and it was actually, just worsening my condition. So throughout my childhood, I just remember the stories of, having to wear gloves, like many kids with eczema and atopic dermatitis would have to, because I was scratching so bad that, my hands would be covered in blood in the morning. And I suppose my mom was a believer in natural healing overall, And while she was respecting to some extent what the doctors were recommending, she was completely opposed to putting me on steroids at any point in time. So she was trying all various alternative ways, between acupuncture and homeopathy and, millions of other things. And I suppose nothing really was resolving the issues. And I just learned to let this condition coexist, and it never stopped me from living my life. I actually, just would have a rash every 3 weeks, and then it would go away, and then I would be fine again. When I was a teenager, I remember that my symptoms have worsened, and this was the only time when I was a teenager that my mom allowed me to use a steroid cream, because my face was covered in scabs and I would have to go to school wearing a scarf. So obviously she understood how, troubling it was for me. So I think I used it only like 3 applications, and it all went away and it was fantastic. And then I just lived my life again with continuous rashes every few weeks, every month. But as I said, I was completely accepting of this, and I just decided to live my life, and I never looked back. I was a very healthy person, is what I believed. I never had to actually visit GPs or dermatologists, because I didn't think that they were going to offer me anything that was going to actually get down to the bottom of what my issue was. And then at the age of 30, when I met back then my boyfriend and now a husband, he was concerned that I was suffering from, those rashes and blotches, and, I didn't look my best at times. And he suggested that I go to a dermatologist. And I made an appointment. And without any testing whatsoever, I was diagnosed with eczema. I was told that it was a genetic condition, and as a result of that, there was nothing I could do to address any of the issues I was experiencing, and I could only manage my conditions. And these are the words that are really stuck in my memory, actually. And to manage my condition, because I was completely not interested in steroids, he said that there was this wonderful drug called Protopic that I could use for as long as it's working. I wasn't given any instructions in terms of, how often I should use it. And because my rashes weren't very frequent, I was only use it very sparingly for maybe 2-3 applications at a time, maybe once every month, maybe once every month and a half. And then, I suppose 5.5 years later, when everybody in the world was preoccupied with the pandemic, I developed symptoms that I haven't experienced before, and my rashes were spreading. It started with really itchy eyes, my forehead, and then all the other symptoms associated with TSW also appeared. And I don't think I need to, explain to anybody that knows what I'm talking about in terms of the condition, how debilitating and how hellish it is. And I had no idea what was going on with me. I thought about stress that I was experiencing at work at the time. I thought maybe my diet has slipped a little bit because of the convenience foods we stored in the house, because we thought that the world was ending. And I decided, of course, I'm going to clean up my diet and my skin is going to improve, and it wasn't. And then I started looking for answers, and I got in touch with skin specialists, and I was put on certain supplements, and then I got in touch with herbalists, and then I got in touch with naturopaths. And I am a very determined person. I always want to get to the bottom and have a full understanding of what's happening. And that was my mission as well. I was driving myself insane while I was trying to establish all of this. And I suppose that was March 2020 when my condition has worsened so significantly. And then in August, I was probably at the verge of a nervous breakdown, because I kept my full-time job, which is, relatively stressful, and it requires, a high focus of attention, but I couldn't sleep and I was experiencing all those debilitating symptoms. And this is when I went back to the doctors, and I had expressed that in terms of what I believe has happened is that I developed tolerance to Protopic, and that it's no longer working for me. I was diagnosed on a video call, because that was the only option at the time, with infection and severe eczema, and I was prescribed steroids, for the first time in my life, oral steroids. And I was in such a bad place that I felt like I had no option but to take it. In addition, I was prescribed more Protopic, which I decided not to apply anymore, because again, my intuition was telling me that this was the wrong thing to do. So then, I guess, once the steroids stopped, once I stopped the steroids, the condition came back. And at the time I was with a naturopath, and she was a lovely lady, but she was totally stabbing in the dark. And it took me a while to figure this out, because when you are so down and when you are so concerned about what it is that is happening to you, you become desperate, and this is what happened to me and to many people in the community. And I just accepted everything that she was saying, but at some point I understood that she wasn't going to be the resolution. I tried other things as well, because again, I'm very determined. And I suppose at some point I tried no moisture therapy, which I decided to try because my skin developed some sort of severe reaction to certain things that I was using to moisturize my face. And for 3 months I was doing no moisture therapy. However, I felt like I plateaued, and my ears were still not clearing, and there were certain areas that just were consistently flaring. So I needed to find something else, and I guess a few months before that I actually figured out that it was TSW, albeit I never encountered anybody that would develop it from Protopic only, from immunosuppressants only. Again, I was trying various things. However, nothing really was making a difference. I was experiencing flare-ups maybe every week nearly. I did have one more attempt with a different doctor, that is, who on his website advertises that he deals with people with TSW. However, when I described my history to him, he said it wasn't really a real condition, and that I just had bad eczema and I had to go back on steroids. So yes.
Oh my, that's wow.
Yes, so that was a little bit
I'm a little flabbergasted by that. Yeah, that is disappointing.
Yes. So he prescribed me a bit more steroids. He also gave me some antibiotics, and I was fighting with him, but then, again, a lot of people around me were saying, just say what the doctor tells you to do. Like, you're not getting better with what it is that you're trying to do. And I said, okay, I'll give it one last chance. And I did. And it was a mistake. because when I stopped the steroids, I actually got a massive flare-up, and my right hand opened up and was weeping for months on end. And but at that stage, I just decided that I just have to ride it out. And in February, I guess, so that's a few months later, I listened to Claire's TSW podcast, and you were the guest on it. And what I found extremely interesting is that I know that everybody's CSW journey is completely different, and a lot of people have healed completely naturally. However, those people weren't necessarily the same way I was, in the sense I was never on any medication, but I was continuously getting my rashes. So there's obviously something that was causing them. So when you said that, TSW is one thing, and then you have your underlying condition, and unless you address that, then nothing is going to, your healing is going to be impeded. And this really resonated with me, and I said that this is what I need to do. I need to get in touch with people who have a good understanding of underlying causes. And then I obviously made contact with your practice, and I love the fact that were really asking me tons and tons of questions, and there was a reason that those questions were asked, in terms of my travel history, in terms of my mom's history. And that gave me confidence that we are getting to the bottom of this, which is what I need to do. So yeah, that's my long-winded story.
This episode is brought to you by my skincare line, DermaQuell. The beauty of these skincare products are that they are especially crafted for those struggling with chronic skin rash issues based on my research and clinical experience from my private practice. They focus on organic ingredients that are clean, like zinc, aloe, and hemp oil, that support and calm rashed, dry, angry skin. There's no unnecessary chemicals or additives that can further dry out your skin or mess with your hormones. And I'm so excited for you to add these creams into your routine. Check them out at quellshop.com and use the coupon code GET15OFF to get 15% off your first order. I'll put a link in the description below, and now let's jump back to the video. Oh my goodness. Well, so I think questions that I think listeners would be curious. So did you use Protopic everywhere? Like, where were you generally using Protopic?
I would only use it on my face because, again, at that time, I was only ever getting a small patch on my face, or maybe around my mouth as well. So these were the only areas. Maybe once or twice I use it around my, armpit, but I guess my face was the most common area. So a patch above my lips or around my lips, because they would get red and they would burn and my skin will be peeling. So those were the areas where I used Protopic.
May I ask, did they ever tell you that you could experience rashes that would, obviously the idea of the medication is to try to shut down the immune system so that you don't have these rashes. Were you ever, I'm just curious, were you ever told that they could spread?
No, I was never told that they were spread. The only advice I was given was use it for as long as it's working, and then when it stops working, we'll worry about that at that point. But it was working for 5.5 years because I was using it so sparingly, so I felt no need to go back to the doctor. And so that's where I ended up.
I think it's important, again, it's not to, I think, and you and I had this little chat ahead of time that, there is a time and a place for medication, but we also want to ask what's going on under the surface, which the whole Healthy Skin Show podcast is about that. Like, what else could possibly be going on? And unfortunately, I think the common conventional route is to mask the symptoms rather than to ask that question. And I don't say that with any disrespect to colleagues and physicians. I meet and talk to many people, but I think that this is a reminder potentially that there could be other things under the surface going on that perhaps it's I always look at it as it's your body's way of trying to tell you something is off. And if we just ignore the check engine light of the car, what do we expect to happen down the road? Something's going to break.
I couldn't agree more. I think it was foolish of me to think that suppressing something that was clearly a red engine light was going to resolve my challenge. So I couldn't agree more with you in that regard.
So you started working with Michelle, and for those of you who are going, wait, Michelle, why do I know that name? You all have probably heard her on the Healthy Skin Show. She's done a number of episodes. She is an associate in my practice, and Michelle is amazing. How did that differ? I know people ask me a lot of times, like, what is the experience? Can I talk to a client of yours to find out what the experience is? What was your experience and what has your experience been, I guess, in working with Michelle versus you've worked with a lot of other practitioners?
I had immediate confidence in her because she was so extremely thorough in the way she was questioning, what has happened to me up until then. And she was always very caring, and she's always been extremely responsive. And I guess when she blew me away was when we done some tests and she started going through them and analyzing them. The depth of information that she was able to offer me just was incredible. And she also was able to explain how, the specific things that she uncovered were affecting me potentially. And that gave me confidence, as I said, that we are getting to the root causes. And that's exactly what I needed at that point in time in my journey. So overall, she has been an incredible support, obviously an incredible professional, extremely knowledgeable, and I'm delighted to have an opportunity to be working with her overall.
Yeah, it's interesting in my practice. We find too, and I don't know if you had this experience with other practitioners, but people will bring to us a lot of tests that no one ever explained to them before. And my feeling is that if I have testing run on myself, I want to know what it says. I don't need to know like the exact biochemistry nitty gritty, but it should be explained to me sufficiently so I understand what's going on. So that way I can also be on board with how we get to the solution. And that's a big deal to me and to Michelle to always make sure that we explain labs very clearly to clients. And if we have to come up with, sometimes we have to come up with, I will say creative solutions, because sometimes people can't swallow pills. Sometimes people are very sensitive to certain herbs or they're allergic to certain herbs. And so it's a really big deal for us to make sure that we're meeting someone where they're at and helping them. And I know that you've been working with Michelle for, I guess, about six months now?
Yes, absolutely.
About 6 to 7 months now. Can you share with everyone what the difference has been for you, like where you started in the beginning to compared to like your symptoms then versus symptoms now? And I want to be very clear, everyone. Dominika is still in her journey, so this is not a conversation of someone who is like perfectly healed. Like, it's important for you all to know that this is a journey, and I want you to also know that going into her answer.
Absolutely. So I suppose one of my first protocols was given to me in April, and I saw pretty much, a couple of weeks later, I saw immediate improvement in respect of nearly all of my symptoms. The advice that I was given, in terms of nutritional supplementation, because I was deficient in many nutrients at the time, and obviously the advice in terms of food has made an immediate difference. So I actually couldn't believe how my symptoms were changing, because as a part of working with the practice, we're tracking them. And it was evident that whatever has been suggested made so much difference. My quality of life has changed so much. I also remember having this energy that I probably never have had in my life, and I contributed to the fact that I never ate enough animal protein, because I was a vegetarian for over 30 years. And the advice in terms of protein intake has really made a significant difference in terms of even my body composition. And even my lip color has changed through supplementation of iron, which, is incredible. So 2 months in, there was, such a significant improvement. I was able to really engage with people socially again. I was able to travel. So I guess, it was a really well-awaited change that has happened as a result of the work Michelle and I did.
Yeah. And you're still on the journey together. And I think that's important, that everyone knows that this is not, and I think also too, that it's a reminder that everybody's case is different, that I am so happy for you. I'm looking at like your before and current photos has just been like, wow, I'm so happy for you. And some people take longer, it just depends on what's going on. But I love the fact that we can hold space for everybody's journey, whatever it may be, and offer them some opportunity to look a little deeper into what's going on.
And that's exactly what I was looking for, because I'm a very inquisitive person by nature, and I have to understand what is happening on a deeper level. So it has really worked for me, and having some evidence to suggest a specific intervention is really important for me to buy into it.
May I ask, Dominika, if someone was to ask you what your recommendation would be if they're in a similar boat to you, like what should they do? What would you tell them now, where you having all of these experiences with not only using Protopic for a long time, but also using steroids and getting to a very severe place where your skin was incredibly compromised? What would you suggest to them?
I probably would say that they should find a professional that will be able to take some of that pain away. And it could be, various therapies. There's different things that work for different people. And that I do believe that looking into the root causes is so vital, because it's not only the fact that there was an original condition that led you to use either steroids or immunosuppressants, but also my experience is that whatever underlying issues I had were actually making my symptoms worse. So that was a suffering that, I didn't have to go through if I came across the right people to help me. Everybody's journey is different, and everybody's root causes are different, but I think it will give people a lot of comfort to actually start looking at something in terms of evidence, because there is so much uncertainty with this condition, and it's one of the reasons why it is so difficult to get through, because there's no research, and we're only going by what we see on social media or what we're able to research on the internet. So to have any sort of evidence-based knowledge is so incredibly important, and it gave me so much peace, because I totally felt like I was running around like a headless chicken from one person to another. And I guess in the last few months I feel so much more peaceful, because I feel like I'm getting the help that I need. This is a very long-winded answer.
That's okay. I think that it's important for people to hear what your experience is. And I think you're the first person to ever talk about having issues with Protopic on the show. So I appreciate you for sharing what has happened to you. People will ask me questions if there is a withdrawal with Protopic and what happens with Protopic. And I do think it's important to underscore that Protopic is not topical steroids. They are very different. But I think this is something we do need to wonder about, is could there be long-term consequences to using something like Protopic? And your story, and I've seen others, there are very large Facebook groups that have people in them who are sharing stories, asking questions that I don't know that doctors may have an answer to, and they may be uncomfortable giving clear answers about why this is happening to certain people. But I do appreciate you sharing your story to help highlight something that is going on. And perhaps as we learn more about this, we'll understand it better. And I'm so grateful that we've been able, Michelle, and as an aside myself, and obviously I do work with Michelle on all her cases. I'm so grateful that we've been able to support you on your journey to actually having a much better quality of life.
Pleasure is all mine, and that's for sure. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for being here and sharing your journey, and I'm sure that it will be really inspiring to others out there.
I hope it helps. Thank you so much.
I want to take a moment to thank Dominika for bravely sharing her story publicly. I know it's not always easy to get up on a public platform and share about something that has truly negatively impacted your life so much, but I feel that her bravery will inspire others out there, and that reminder that you're not alone. If her story is similar to yours, I think it's so powerful to hear what someone else has gone through so that you really know you're not alone. And if this has impacted you, or you believe that there may be an issue in your case with this Protopic withdrawal, or you have concerns about the use of Protopic, I'd really genuinely be curious to hear about it. You can head on over to skinterrupt.com/272, and you can leave your questions and comments there, as well as find the additional resources that Dominika mentioned during our interview. And it would mean a lot to me, and probably Dominika as well, and everyone else out there who believes that they are struggling with Protopic withdrawal, if you would share this episode, not to stoke fear and make people afraid of medications that they're using, but to help inform them of a potential serious side effect that could occur with long-term use. And so I believe that building awareness around this could be helpful for those out there to have more informed conversations with their physicians, and also to potentially know if this is what they are dealing with. And to wrap things up, you guys know that I really deeply appreciate every single person who rates and reviews the Healthy Skin Show. So if you haven't done so yet, please head to your podcast platform of choice and share your thoughts for others out there to know the benefits and the value of tuning into the Healthy Skin Show. And make sure to subscribe. That way you never miss a weekly dose of inspiration, stories like this, personal journeys that help us better understand what is happening to people, research, alternative strategies, and tips that you may never have heard anywhere else to help you on your journey to rebuild healthy skin. And then let's connect over on Instagram. I'm at Jennifer Fugo. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to digging deeper with you in the next episode.